Well, welcome to the third section of today's topic, which is monopoly and the imperfect competition. And in this section, we will basically discuss the outcome of the monopoly markets. And basically, uh, well, in order to discuss the outcome of the monopoly markets, first we are going to find out the profit maximizing output level. As we have already seen, the companies in a neoclassically defined economic system are just caring for the economy, the profits, so they will just find out the profit that maximizes the output and produce at that output level. And then we will make profit and loss analysis, which is basically we will see what is the profit and loss of the monopoly. Can monopolies make loss? And we will discuss possibilities of that and how to calculate that loss. We will also see whether the monopolies will basically produce at that level, which is very much possible. They might not basically produce at that point. And lastly, we will see briefly the implications of the monopoly market outcome, basically. So let's continue. Well, you might have noticed in this case, unlike the monopoly, unlike the perfect competition case, we don't find the supply curve. So why is that? So basically, supply curves are designed in a way that producers are deciding, assuming that producers are deciding the output they produce for each price level independent of the buyers or consumers, which means basically whatever the consumers decide, the producers don't take into account, don't need to take into account. They just take into account the prices, and for each price level, independent of what consumers do, they already determine what amount they will produce. So the producers and consumers are not taking into account each other, but they still make their decisions. So they are communicating basically through the price mechanism. But when we have a monopoly, this is not the case. Monopolies don't only take into account the prices, they also take into account the full shape of the demand curve. And since their behavior is not independent of the buyer's behavior, the price is not enough to determine their output level. We don't have supply curve for the monopolies. So let's move on. Profit maximizing output level of the monopoly will be determined according to what? Here we don't have much of a secret. If we had that secret to be solved last week, which is monopolies will, just like the other companies, produce at the output level where marginal revenue and marginal cost is equal to each other. In that sense, they are not different from the companies in the perfectly competitive market. They act with exactly the same instinct. Why are the companies in perfectly competitive markets producing at the point where marginal cost and marginal revenue is equal to each other? We have seen that in the last week's last topics class, which was right before the Corona break, 2 weeks before. If you don't know, basically just look to the slides or book chapter or your notes on that topic. So, in this sense, the monopolies are similar to the perfectly competitive firms, but there's a part where they are different, and this is the marginal revenue part. So this program is basically the program, the equivalent of Excel in the Mac computer. So when price is the same, marginal revenue is always the same for every quantity, and it is equal to price. Why is this so? If you buy 2 units instead of the first unit, remember that marginal revenue was the additional revenue brought by selling another unit. When you sell 2 units instead of 1 unit, and the price remains the same. In that case, the additional income you get, revenue you get, is 14, the price you got of the second unit, and you are not losing any money by selling this additional quantity. That's why price and marginal revenue, when price is always the same, whatever quantity you sell is the same, price and marginal revenue are also the same, which was the case of the last week, if you remember. In this week, however, the price will change because we have a downward sloped demand curve. So price in this case, the demand curve of the monopoly in this case is the same as demand curve of the whole market, because remember, now we have the whole, basically the monopoly is capturing the whole market demand. So this is the demand curve, which means if monopoly sells instead of 14 units, 12 units, the price will fall, no, instead of 1 unit, 2 units, the price will fall to 12. If it wants to sell 3 units, the price will fall further. And note that this is a decision made by the monopolies for each period, so it doesn't sell first the first unit and then the second unit, rather decide how much to sell by considering the demand curve, knowing it beforehand, and then face with the consequences. So if it decides to sell instead of 2 units, 3 units, then the price will fall to 10. So what happens in this case? In this case, if you sell instead of 1 unit, 2 units, you get $12 or 12 Turkish lira as the revenue. But the revenue you got from the first unit was previously 14. You are losing $2 from it, because now you are not selling that initial unit to the for the $14, but you sell it for the $12. So you lose $2 because of this reason, and your marginal revenue falls to 10. Well, you can see it also by making this calculation. If you sell 1 unit for $14, your total revenue is $14. When you sell 2 units for $12, your total revenue is $24. You multiply these two quantities, and when you subtract them, the difference is $10. Well, for the third unit, well, you got $10 as your revenue, but your initial 2 units will be sold now for $2 cheaper price. Well, already the price of this first unit has fallen to $12, but now it will be sold for the $10. This unit will also be sold for $10. So you are losing $2 per unit. You lose in total $4. So your total your margin revenue falls to $6. Now, well, to be honest, I haven't done this before, but let me try to also draw the graphic of this. If I can't, okay. Okay, let's see. Actually, let me have another video where I'm showing you the graphical representation of everything I have talked here. And I can work beforehand on that. So let's not do that. But basically, margin revenue curve will look like this. And we will see why. So if total revenue is for 2 units, what is the total revenue for 3 units? Margin revenue of 3 units. We have already discussed this. So average revenue of the monopoly. What is the average revenue of the monopoly? When our monopoly sells 4 units, it is, for example, selling it for $8. So it is getting 4 times $8 revenue. In order to find, that's 32. In order to find the average, you need to divide it to 4. 4 times 8 divided by 4 is 8. So average revenue is price. Here we have exactly the same thing like the perfect competitive market. This will become important. So our monopoly is producing at the point where the marginal cost curve, the increasing section of the marginal cost curve, remember it could also have a decreasing section here, intersects with the marginal revenue curve. So that's just like before, but now marginal revenue curve and the demand curve or average revenue curve are two different curves, but still our profit maximizing point is the point where marginal revenue curve and marginal cost curve intersect. Which basically means the price at which monopoly is selling is not equal to the basically the margin revenue of the monopoly, basically. So for example, for this monopoly, the profit maximizing point is 20 units, at which the price is $6. However, the margin revenue at this point is $2. So, profit loss analysis. How do we find profit and loss? Basically, after having this type of after basically finding the profit maximizing point, well, again we will do exactly the same. We find the average revenue, for which we need to go up and to the all the way to up to the demand curve here, which is $6, and then we need to go down to the average total cost curve. So average total cost at profit maximizing point is $4. Marginal revenue, average revenue at the profit maximizing point is $6. So our profit is average revenue minus average cost, which is 6 minus 4, 2, times the quantity we produce, 20. Revenue minus cost was equal to profit. Average revenue minus average cost in parentheses times the quantity was the also equal to profit. So this triangle here is the profit, represents the profit amount, basically. Let's stop here. Next time we will see, if possible, the graphical representation of the marginal revenue and the demand curve, basically, and then look a little bit further of the profit and loss of the monopolies, and lastly discuss the implications of the monopoly outcome. See you in the fourth section of this week's topic.